Before we came on this show, I spoke to a team source, league source, that said that the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely in on Cooper Kupp, and they view Cooper Kupp as their best option. Why? Because Cooper Kupp is a guy that, quote unquote, is a plug and play player that will come into Pittsburgh, immediately make an impact for this offense, become somebody that if he shows up on Thursday, he plays on Sunday, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have no worries about his production. He makes the entire offense better. He is a person that the Pittsburgh Steelers can rely on as a wide receiver 1B next to George Pickens. And on top of that, he lacks something that most other wide receivers, especially those we have talked about as trade candidates, lack. And that is any drama whatsoever. The Steelers view Cooper Kupp as a guy that will come in here, follow suit, fit in very well with the culture and with Mike Tomlin and company, especially with Russell Wilson now a quarterback, and cause no issues no matter what his role is, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers expect that role to be pretty big. They view this as a guy that they could go out and get. They are willing to actually pay a little bit more when it comes to compensation for a guy like Cooper Kupp, because they view him as somebody that comes with no drama, no issues whatsoever, and that could come in here to Pittsburgh, make some noise immediately, and go from there. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, quote unquote, absolutely in on Cooper Kupp. That comes from sources just before this show. And we came on today, the topic of conversation. And I always believe, I mean, you guys know me, dude. I'm a guy that everything happens for a reason. The signs are always there. It's why I lose bets. That's why I win bets. That's why you do things like hold off the conversation of wide receivers until today. Because yesterday, me and Nick are talking, going, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And he drops, well, what about wide receivers? And I say, well, we'll hold that till tomorrow. Kind of feels like we held that for tomorrow for a specific reason now. And that reason was that, well, this interest is real. And now we have something to talk about other than what does Cooper Kupp cost and what would you give up for that conversation? I'll ask you this because I have the numbers. I have the trade package that I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers would be willing to give up for Cooper Kupp, and I want to dive into all that. But this is, I mean, I just dropped this on you moments before we went live. I said, hey, first thing I said when I got on, I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely in on Cooper Kupp. I told you to check out the headline of the podcast. So this is new news to you as well. I want your original reaction or your initial reaction to the Pittsburgh Steelers being in on Cooper Kupp.
Well, for them being interested, I'll say the same thing that everybody has said to you over the past 8 weeks plus is water wet. Yeah, the Steelers should be interested in a receiver because they've been interested in a receiver this entire time. And Cooper Kupp, a guy who, injuries aside, is one of the top receivers in the league, should obviously be on their radar if he is available, which indeed it seems like he is available. Now, the injuries is the one thing that concerns me, but here's the thing. When he's healthy, which all reports indicate that he is healthy from this point going forward, and you're hoping it stays that way, but he's healthy and ready to play. The last time he was healthy for a full season, all he did was win the Triple Crown and help his team to a Super Bowl appearance. I think that's a bet I'm willing to take. I think that's a bet I'm willing to take with the Steelers, especially because it seems like you are that one piece that could push you over the edge to get you into being that upper echelon team in the AFC. So I would say, yeah, take the bet on Cooper Kupp if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep. I agree. And we're going to talk trade compensation here in just a second. But this is, you look at guys, DeAndre Hopkins is the topic of conversation all day long, right? It's DeAndre Hopkins goes to the Kansas City Chiefs for some wild conditional pick. It's a 5th round. If they make the Super Bowl and he plays 60% of the snaps, it becomes a 4th, which means the Tennessee Titans are very confident the Kansas City Chiefs are going to end up in the Super Bowl once again. You look at this with the Pittsburgh Steelers and you say, teams probably wouldn't make that trade. It would have to come with some sort of conditional pick. Everything's a conditional pick these days. But would a team view the Pittsburgh Steelers as something that they could go with the Jets of the AFC North game and Devontae Adams has to be an all-pro for that to go to a 2nd round pick? Can a team look at the Steelers and say those same things? I think with a guy like Cooper Kupp, they can. I believe a guy like Cooper Kupp, if he's healthy, which that would be the conditional, that's why you would make it a conditional third into a second or so on and so forth, is if he stays healthy, yes, the Steelers are a team that you now view as a contender for not just the AFC North, but the AFC in general, that they could find their way to a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, against the Buffalo Bills, against the Baltimore Ravens, and say, or against the Houston Texans, and say they have an opportunity to get there and possibly win it because of what Cooper Kupp brings. That's who Cooper, and I wouldn't say that about a lot of guys. You know, Brandon Ayuk, I think, makes them a contender, and we had that conversation all summer long. Brandon Ayuk makes them a contender. Brandon Ayuk makes them a contender. Devontae Adams made them a contender to a degree. A little bit of, you're hoping that you get Devontae Adams without the issues, and if that's the case, which I don't think anybody expected, you view it and say Devontae Adams probably makes them a contender. I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins made them a contender. Cooper Kupp, healthy and ready to go, makes most teams a contender. Most teams that are in there that are looking, that are one wide receiver away, that is as good as it gets on the market, and the Steelers have an opportunity to go out and get them. Again, quote unquote, absolutely in on Cooper Kupp, and they look at it as a plug and play atmosphere that they can go out and get this guy, bring him in there, are willing to give up more because he is less drama than most wide receivers, especially those who have been available this season, and can come in here with literally no issues. Now let's talk what it would cost and what they could possibly give up to go get Cooper Kupp, because those are all the questions. Those are what come with the statement the Steelers are in. Oh, that's great, but the dude has a $29 million cap hit next year. So is that even feasible for the Pittsburgh Steelers? They have roughly $9 million in salary cap space this year. Is that even feasible for the Pittsburgh Steelers? There's this chill in the air. The leaves are hitting the ground, and football is every single weekend. And that, my friends, is what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners, DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. And right now, all new customers who bet $5 instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up using my promo code ALLSTEELERS, and guess what? The crown is yours. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. You could stay in on the action and use that $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings, because DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use my promo code ALLSTEELERS and bet just $5 on any wager get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSTEELERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook. I'll tell you this. Let's break it down here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have just over 9. Cooper Kupp's cap hit this season, if they trade him before Sunday, is just over $9 million. But the Los Angeles Rams are willing to take on some of that, according to the Athletics' Diana Rossini. This is where things get very interesting. Next season, the only guaranteed money the Pittsburgh Steelers would have to cough up for Cooper Kupp, no matter what, whether he's on the roster, whether he's off the roster, is $5 million. That is guaranteed. No matter, that is their money that they have to hand Cooper Kupp a year from now. They obviously will hand him much more if they do not restructure his deal, and this contract will be upwards of $20 million plus if they do not restructure a deal before then. But you have to imagine that they're looking at Cooper Kupp and saying, we can get even another year out of you, because at that point you'll be 33. That seems like a good place to end the contract, and then we'll go from there. Then we'll figure some things out. If they do that, the way I look at this is ask the Rams to take on the $5 million, but instead of next year, this year. Take on $5 million of the $9 million cap hit this season, make it 4 and some change, gives the Pittsburgh Steelers just about $5 million. That's not really where they want to be. They want to be closer to 10, but you could still make some wiggle room, and you could make that happen at about $5.5 million with Cooper Kupp take on the 5 next year because chances are you want to keep him anyways, restructure his deal to add another year before the end of this season and go from there. I view this as a guy that could cost $4.5 million this season. And next year you probably pay closer to 20, but the year after that you pay, I don't know, 17, 18, something like that. You push it back, you make it work, and you still have $5 million left. And when it comes to compensation, when it comes to what you're going to give the Los Angeles Rams, I mean, unless I'm alone here, I'd give up a conditional 3rd round pick. And I'd say, I'll give you a conditional 3rd if he plays 60% of the snaps the remainder of the season, because that's the biggest part here is injuries. If he plays 60% of the snaps the rest of the season, plus, I mean, if you want to dumb it down, you could go something along the lines of they make the divisional game in the playoffs. If you don't want to go all the way to the AFC Championship game, if you don't think that the Rams would budge on that, but I would test the waters on the AFC Championship game. I would test that and say, if the Steelers make it to the AFC Championship game and Cooper Kupp plays 60% of the snaps or more, that becomes a 2nd round pick. Because quite frankly, I get it. You want that pick. If Cooper Kupp's the difference between a playoff win and a Super Bowl, that's okay. It's worth the 2nd round pick. You can make that up just fine. I'd be okay with that. I'd ask the Los Angeles Rams to take on $5 million of the Pittsburgh Steelers' $9-point-some million cap hit from Cooper Kupp. And I would give up a conditional 3rd round pick that says, hey, AFC Championship game, if they're willing to budge on that, and 60% of the snaps. And I think they'd take that. Worst case scenario, they dumb it down to the divisional round of the playoffs. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that sounds like a deal to me. I mean, the biggest thing here is the conditional. I mean, we've talked about it. The biggest thing with Kupp is always the health, but when he's healthy, and let's not act like, I did say, the last time he was healthy for a full season, I made the joke, all he did was win the Triple Crown and go to the Super Bowl. But when he was healthy this season, first game of the year, 21 targets, 14 receptions, over 100 yards, and a touchdown in week 1. That's this year. They're saying he's healthy again. If you get that the rest of this season and you're going for a Super Bowl, first of all, I don't care what the draft pick is, but I get why it needs to be something that's a little bit more reasonable. Hence the conditional 3rd. We've seen it in the Hopkins trade. We saw it in the Devontae Adams trade. These conditions are all, contingent upon these players playing, right? Devontae was coming off a hamstring injury. That's why that was included. You're getting a little bit of safety and security against his injury history with those conditions and with that money coming back from the LA Rams taking that up. So I think that being the deal, if that's something that the Rams are into, especially if you can get it being, the conditions of an AFC Championship game plus percentage of playing time, I think that is in every way, shape, and form a great deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a guy that, like you mentioned, not only gets you that wide receiver that you've been missing, he raises the bar of your offense substantially. Yeah. These other receivers might have raised the bar, but not as substantially as getting a Cooper Kupp would have.